Hello, my name is Bubs, I'm an artist, and I like to hear myself talk, and today I'd like to hear myself talk about women. I love women, and I'd imagine plenty of you out there in my audience also love women, which is great, because that's what the video is about. I already said that, come on, keep up. For those unaware, I committed to making a very simple video with a very easy concept for myself this week because I actually needed to for my well-being. Unfortunately, I am an ambitious workaholic that also occasionally struggles with procrastination, which is a deadly combination. And when I noticed people noticing that I seemed a bit off, I knew that I needed to do something different because my diminished motivation and energy were beginning to show. One of my goals as a creator is not to make my audience worry for my well-being because I'm a dumbass, and I am happy to report that taking a week off of my normal shenanigans was actually really helpful and rejuvenating. Enough of that though, that stuff is boring, and I'm supposed to be talking about women right now, so let's get back to the concept here. An art exercise I've done for a really long time is finding some kind of random list generator to give me a prompt to design a character off of. I usually do this in my sketchbooks, and in fact, occasionally use these things to create entire sketch pages rather than individual character designs. However, I decided it might be fun to do my usual art exercises, but digitally, so that I could turn it into a quick video. The theme for this batch was a bunch of pretty ladies based off of randomly selected fruits, which seems pretty appropriate for my first video of Pride Month. This is the list that we're going off of, and I shall be going in the order in which I got them. This video is probably going to be pretty short, but you should still get some water to sip on for this one because hydration is important. Get settled because we are gonna get going, starting with our watermelon babe. I want to start off each section with a fruit fun fact because fun facts are fun, and I actually did a little reading for each of the fruits to see if I could get a few more ideas for things, and I thought this was fun and neat, and I wanted to share it, so here we go. Did you know that watermelons originate from the arid regions of southern Africa? It might sound a bit strange that something called a watermelon would have started to grow in a region that I just defined as having little water, but that might have been to the melon's benefit. Historians believe that thousands of years ago, the wild watermelon was favored by locals for their water content because it was a consistent and easy way to keep yourself hydrated. But unlike today, people were generally not fans of the watermelon for its taste. This original form of the fruit was actually very bitter tasting, and that only started to change once the fruit made its way up the continent to Egypt. There, ancient Egyptians began cultivating the fruit along the Nile, specifically with the intention to develop a sweeter flavor. Because of this, Egypt was the site of the first ever recorded watermelon harvest. Now that I'm done with that brief stalling, I have terrible news regarding the introduction of this particular fruit-based babe.
I had it turned off. I'm very upset.
Yeah, I did this one first, and I actually have time lapses turned off on Procreate most of the time to save storage space on my iPad. Luckily, after I remembered this was for a video, I also remembered to check all the other canvases before I started, but you cannot watch me draw this watermelon lady. I will still show her to you and talk about the things I was trying to incorporate into the design, but yeah, I borked this one, sorry. Anyways, here is what I drew with the watermelon babe prompt. Personally, I associate watermelon with the summer. Not only because they are in season in the summer, but I feel like my watermelon memories are really a part of summery activities, like picnics or fireworks shows on the 4th of July. In recent years, I eat chunks of watermelon directly from a bowl in the fridge like a heathen, but I felt like a character based on a watermelon had to also embody summer to an extent, so I went with a beach babe sort of vibe. For the record, I did not come up with the big watermelon cross-section skirt cover-up thingy. I don't know what to call it, and I refuse to type a string of stupid keywords into Google right now. That's an idea I actually borrowed from a delightful doll. I am mostly sure that it was my tie, and it will show on screen right now if I was correct. If I'm not, feel free to make fun of me in the comments. Anyways, I just thought it was perfect for this design, because I was going very minimal with the outfit in general, and I thought that this was a really good way to get across the watermelon vibe without having to put, like, watermelon patterns on her bikini or something. I also went with big, round, pink sunglasses as a way to further have some more melon and beachy sorts of elements in there. And my favorite outfit detail is probably the watermelon seed earrings, but that's just me. I based the personality off of the actual taste of the watermelon, which I tried to do with all of the fruit babes. I love watermelon, and I find it to be very pleasantly sweet. However, it lives up to the name watermelon, and as such, the taste is very muted by how dilute it is. As such, I felt like an approachable and laid-back kind of lady would be a good personification of a watermelon. I went for the physique and round shapes for the body and hair I did because of the actual physical attributes of the watermelon. It's well known for being big and round, but also well known for being pretty strong. It takes a good amount of force to crack one of those suckers open, so I felt like having a gal that is both plump and a bit beefy was appropriate. Also, I shouldn't have to say it, but I feel like it was only right to give the melon lady a nice set of melons, and I also shouldn't have to say it, but you must be new if you think this is where the boob jokes are gonna end. I think the colors should be pretty self-explanatory, but for the skin on this lady, I actually kind of wanted to go for a sort of sunburnt look, both to make her flesh more accurate to the flesh of an actual watermelon while still looking natural for a human, but also because I thought it was a funny way to continue the beach theme. Girl, please put on sunscreen, please! I also thought it would be kind of cute to give her lots of freckles to kind of remind you of watermelon seeds. I don't know if that came across, but that's why I did that, so... All in all, I do like this design, but it's definitely not my favorite. That's generally how the first design of these exercises go for me. They're the warm-up. This is also a good time to say I did not come up with a name for any of these gals, mostly because these were quick one-off designs that I will very likely never use again. So if you all have any cute on-theme names for them, I'd love to hear them for the funsies. On to the next fruit. So your grapefruit fun fact is the etymology of grapefruit. If you're anything like me, or the person behind this Reddit post from 9 months ago, you have always been really confused and even irritated at the name grapefruit because it seems to make no sense. We literally already have a grapefruit, and it's this dude right here. Who is she? As such, this mini project gifted me with the perfect opportunity to do some Googling on the subject. Unfortunately, the answer I got was kind of frustrating because apparently no one really knows. Some people seem to believe that some colonizing piece of shit named John Lunan gave it its name. Apparently, he mentioned this new, at the time, citrus variant in a book and called it a grapefruit because he thought that the fruit tasted like a grape? Maybe grapes were just different in 1814, or maybe he was just stupid. He did think slavery was cool, so I'm leaning more towards the latter explanation, not gonna lie, but regardless, that lead is a bit of a bust, as there is conflicting reports of whether he was actually describing the fruit we know of as a grapefruit, or a different but similar citrus plant. Others have theorized that it was a marketing-based term that is supposed to allude to the clusters that the fruit grow in on the tree and how it kind of looks like clusters of grapes on a vine, kind of. But my personal favorite possible explanation that I found is related to botanical terminology. The grapefruit is technically a variant / descendant of the pomelo, a citrus fruit native to Southeast Asia. One of the pomelo's botanical terms is Citrus grandis, which I likely said wrong, and that is basically Latin for great fruit. It is possible that when a new kind of pomelo cropped up, people started to call it a great fruit, and because people have a tendency to make words sound like other words over time, it eventually started to be referred to as a grapefruit instead. No matter what the real answer is, it's probably too late to change it now, so it will just get to be one more entry on the really long list of stupid and confusing English words. Language is interesting, isn't it? On to the art. I kept a few things in mind while I started sketching. Grapefruits have several variants on their own, ranging in color, tartness, and sweetness, so I did have a bit of wiggle room in terms of color and personality. You'll see what I did for the palette in a bit, but for the character herself, I decided to go for more of a sassy kind of character. One that is often sweet, but has the potential to be pretty sour. She can be your angel or your devil, up to you. I also wanted her to seem pretty energetic, because I've only ever really eaten grapefruit as a part of a breakfast or brunch situation, so I kind of associate it with getting up and getting going. I decided I wanted her to be a little more on the thick side, because grapefruits are definitely more towards the hefty range in the grapefruit catalog, so having her be a little chunkier with two nice firm grapefruits of her own seemed like a good call for the body shape. For her hair, I was actually trying to make it look sort of like the leaves of a grapefruit tree, and I don't know how much that came across, but that is what I was going for. I decided to dress her very warmly because grapefruit season is in the winter, like a lot of citrus fruits, and this way I'd get to give her one of those hats with a little fluff ball on top, and I could make it look like a little grapefruit, and that is very cute, and I wanted to, so I did. I also just wanted to draw one of those jackets with the little puffs like that. I had an idea to have the different puffs have stripes of slightly different variations in color since, again, the grapefruit has a couple different color options. Fun fact for those of you that read Girl and Ghost, the original design of Andrew actually sported a jacket like this, but I absolutely hated having to draw it over and over because the shape was not easy to have be consistent and also look good. So he was upgraded, or maybe downgraded depending on your preferences, to the sort of Letterman style jacket when I started to release it in a more official capacity. Ooh, so many fun facts in this section. For colors, I sort of just head emptied my way through with rosy reds, oranges, and a very pale yellow tone that's sort of like the pith, which is that really weird membrane-y part of citrus fruits between the actual good stuff and the rind that I genuinely hate with every fiber of my being due to the texture. In hindsight, the way that I colored the outfit came out sort of Velma adjacent, but I still think she's pretty cute. I don't know that she reminds me as much of a grapefruit as the watermelon lady, but since the watermelon lady literally has a big watermelon in her outfit, I feel like she's kind of cheating, so I'll leave that up to you folks. Moving right along. Your fun fact about strawberries is that the name strawberry is a big lie. Strawberries, similar to other fruits that we refer to as a something berry, is not actually a berry. Berries, from a botanical standpoint, are generally defined as a pitless fruit that develops from a single flower with a single ovary. Yes, plants and flowers can have ovaries. They are obviously extremely different from the ovary of an animal, but yes, ovaries. Anyways, this definition covers anything from the predictable grape to the less predictable banana, all the way to the confusing eggplant. A strawberry, however, is an aggregate fruit, which means it's the product of several ovaries in a single flower merging together into one fruit. A sort of related sub-fun fact is that the seeds you see on the strawberry are technically their own teeny tiny fruits called an achene. You can decide for yourself how upsetting all that information is. Anyways, for the strawberry lady, I really had two major ideas right off the bat, and that was that I wanted the strawberry gal to come across as very sweet, and that I wanted her to be very aesthetic. The sweetness aspect, I hope, is self-explanatory unless you've only ever had shitty strawberries, but the aesthetic thing might just be a personal projection kind of situation. It could definitely just be me. But I feel like of all the fruits to exist, when you see people making any kind of aesthetic fruity thing, from cake to smoothies to teas to fruit salad and beyond, strawberries get involved at some point. I obviously understand why they are generally pretty cute fruits, and they have a flavor that blends very well with a ton of other flavors. So obviously I wanted this gal to feel super cutesy and very aesthetically pleasing, much more so than the other gals so far. Lots of cute accessories, all themed around the same thing, that kind of situation. And of course, the theme was strawberries. I was not exactly sure how to make a strawberry-shaped lady, if I'm honest. I could have opted for more of a pear-shaped figure if I decided to flip that strawberry upside down, but then again, a pear is a different fruit. I also considered making her kind of triangular with broad shoulders and little hips, committing to making her super muscular and such, but I wasn't sure if that fit my understanding of the fruit we are basing her off of. Strawberries will get bruised if you simply look at them wrong, so a big beefcake with a big strong frame didn't work with my idea here. I ultimately opted to just have a lot of strawberry shapes kind of hidden, like the shape of her head and the kind of poofy to skinny puff shapes on her dress skirt and sleeves. Her nose even is like kind of shaped like a strawberry if you pretend that it's shaped like a strawberry. And of course, in regards to her strawberries, I thought it would make sense for her to have a smaller chest since I was already making her more on the petite side of things. Besides, boob diversity is important, so I also decided to put a lot of strawberry flowers on her because strawberry flowers are super cute to me. They're these tiny white flowers that probably contribute to the reputation that strawberries have of being super aesthetic. They're probably a very pretty plant to have in your garden. I also gave her a little purse that was shaped like a strawberry because I thought it would be cute, and I was right. Considering that this is actually a part of a routine exercise I do now and again to keep my design skills sharp, there aren't really rules that I am meant to adhere to, but if there was a way to cheat this, I feel like this purse definitely would be cheating. Even more so than the watermelon skirt thing. But I don't care because it's adorable. The color palette was something I struggled with more than I'd like to admit. I wanted to use a range of pinks and reds with a little pop of green and yellow in there for the leaves and the inside of the flowers, respectively. I wanted her to have light pinky toned skin, sort of like the inside of a strawberry, which ended up reminding me of strawberry milk for some reason. I fucking love strawberry milk. They used to have bottles of it at the university market, like, near my dorm, and I would genuinely just get those little bottles when I was having a bad day and have myself some strawberry milk because it made everything feel better. I think it is important to remember that getting yourself little treats of that nature should not be something you just give up on because you get older. Never let yourself outgrow things you enjoy because people think it's childish. Having fun and enjoying life should not be considered childish. I also wanted her dress to have polka dots because it felt like a way to get across the strawberry seeds, or achenes as previously discussed, without literally just drawing on a strawberry pattern. After all, she already had the strawberry purse, so I feel like drawing the actual seed shapes would be kind of overdoing it. I won't lie, Strawberry Girl turned out to be kind of my second favorite. This kind of lady isn't necessarily my personal type, I'll say that, but I can say if a cute lady who has a whole aesthetic going like this were to tell me that I'm pretty, I'd probably ride that high for at least a whole week. Like, easy. Also, I have absolutely no idea why my brain says this, but I feel like she looks French to me. I don't really know what that means, or if I will have French people trying to get me now. Shout out to my French viewers, if I have any. Vous êtes super? Please don't leave, I am so sorry. Moving right along to the second to last fruit lady. Your fun fact about dates is that they are generally considered to be one of, if not the, oldest fruit tree to ever be cultivated by humans. Archaeologists have found evidence of date agriculture in Arabia as far back as the 6th millennium BCE, which, in other words, was about 8,000 to 9,000 years ago. And throughout all history, and even to this day, dates are largely harvested by hand rather than machine. The date palm's trunk is generally pretty awkward shape-wise, and dates grow in a way where certain dates will be ripe at different times. And because machine harvesting generally requires consistent attachment points and is not really able to be selective for different ripeness, most date harvests are done with human harvesters. Pretty darn cool. I personally love dates. I think they have such a nice, rich flavor that pairs super well with meat and cheese on a little charcuterie board, which is why I typically think of dates as something kind of fancy. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is what I think, and it's what I took off with for this design. I wanted a character that seemed elegant and refined, but still kind and warm and inviting. I also wanted to create a more mature-looking woman because I think most folks, including myself, think of the date when it's in its partially dried state, where they get a little wrinkly. Besides, I feel like when I think of a warm, sweet, elegant character, I kind of default to, mother vibes. For her body shape, I wanted her to be super long. Long legs, long arms, long torso. Dates have a very oblong shape like that, and I just felt like it made sense. I was originally going to have her also be less curvy, but I think I started to have a little too much fun with this one because, unlike Strawberry Lady, this might actually be my type. Don't you dare read into that more. I'm being very vulnerable with you right now, so don't make me want to take it back. Anyways, because she's quite long, I wanted to pose her to look like she's kind of looking down at you, but not in a condescending way. She's just really tall. I also wanted to make it clear that while she's elegant, she's still, like, a human being. I feel like the warmth that I wanted to come across would have a harder time doing so if she looked immaculate. I feel like that would be more intimidating or even scary, so making sure she's imperfect helps her seem more approachable to me. I pulled her hair back into a messy sort of bun. Maybe she's been at this fancy party for a while and she had her hair down before, but she just can't deal with it anymore, so she poached a hair tie from someone and used it to get all that mess a bit more out of the way. Color palette was easy, as unlike all the other stuff I've gotten so far, there isn't any kind of crazy saturated pinks or reds or greens. Dates all tend to be this beautiful rich brown color, so I just stuck to a monochromatic palette with varying shades of brown, then coming in at the very end with a little pop of yellow to liven things up just a smidge. I think she turned out super cool. There's a part of me that wishes I would have committed a little harder to making her look older and more wrinkly, but I am definitely still working out how I want to render more mature characters with my cartoony style. I feel like I default to the same tricks, but that makes everybody look so samey, and that's not really good, so you know. Anyways, this was one of the more simple designs I did, so that's really all I've got to say here. On to the last one. The last fun fact will, of course, be about the clementine, and the fun fact is that clementines are one of the few citrus fruits that do not carry seeds. Before you get in a tizzy about whether or not it therefore classifies as a fruit, because generally speaking containing seeds is one of the few requirements for being a fruit, I'd rather just talk about how interesting this is from a botanical standpoint. Obviously, there is nothing natural about a fruit bearing no seeds, as a plant would not spend the resources and energy necessary to make the fruit if it didn't give the plant a benefit. And when a fruit is on the table, it is literally all about the seeds. Sometimes it's for protecting the seeds, sometimes it's like a nutrient care package for when the fruit falls onto the ground, and sometimes it's for dispersal, since animals will eat the seeds while munching on the fruit, but are less likely to digest and harm the seed before it makes its way back out into the world. To produce a fruit without a seed is a little silly, unless, of course, humans like you more if you don't make fruits with seeds, and will plant you more as a result. We humans do this all the time with all sorts of plants, playing God over hundreds or even thousands of years by kicking out the natural in natural selection. Whether it is making a watermelon more sweet or making a fruit literally give up the entire purpose of a fruit, it's just super interesting to me how much you can change things simply by putting certain plants next to each other for long enough. It's wild. Anyways, on to our final fruity babe here. For her, I came up with much more of an actual character. I imagined that she was a single mom. I went that route because clementines always seemed to be marketed at kids. They have no seeds, so less choke risk and better for picky folks. They have a very good nutrient profile, so it's a healthy option for a growing gremlin. It's got a lot less acid than the typical citrus, so it's not as hostile to the consumer, and of course, they've got that thinner, easy-to-peel skin that I fail to peel all the time still, but it's apparently supposed to be this perfect choice for young humans with not quite fully developed fine motor skills. I felt like this character either had to be like a mom or a teacher, and I went with the mom approach because the clementine is seedless. I know that kind of sounds like it doesn't make sense, but I was like, oh, maybe she adopted a bunch of little kids, and then I took to calling them cuties in my brain, since that's a brand of little clementines that I'm familiar with, so yeah, she's a mom. On to more of the actual design elements. Clementines are another one of those fruits that's in season in the winter, so I wanted her to dress a bit warmer. I also gave her a pretty average build with some average-sized clementines, since in my brain, clementines are a pretty average-sized fruit. I gave her a big afro because I liked the idea of it creating a round shape that would conjure the image of clementines. Her outfit somehow turned out a little 70s adjacent, but I feel like when I draw a character with a big kind of like afro situation, I always give them wide-legged pants. It is entirely involuntary. I just think maybe my brain likes how it makes the design look more balanced or something. I decided to lean into the clementine flower a bit too here, similar to our strawberry gal, and this was more because after some Googling, I learned that clementine trees are fairly popular to have as indoor plants. Apparently they do really well inside, grow fast, and smell good, so a lot of people keep them as houseplants to enjoy both their flowers and then their eventual fruit. So I gave her a very simple flower pattern on her shirt and also some flower details on her sneakers. Color palette is, once again, pretty self-explanatory. Green to represent the leaves, orange to represent the peel, and sort of that pale yellow or ivory sort of color to represent the pith and the flowers. This was definitely my favorite. I either have situations where the last design is kind of the worst because I've run out of steam, or it's the best because I was the most in the zone, and I feel like this particular design was kind of the latter. Also, this is the only girl that comes pre-named, and that's because Clementine feels the most like a standard name to me. So her name just gets to be Clementine, and I love her, and that's this little video done. On to a quick fan art feature. I have two lovely artists to feature today. First up, over here on YouTube, I got this lovely piece of art from That Productions. I just absolutely love how shapey your style is, genuinely. It's so bold and expressive, and I love it so much. I also really like how you drew the mouth going off the face a little bit. It's a stylistic choice that can be divisive, I am sure, but for me personally, I feel like it gives the facial expression a lot more energy. The subtle grainy filter and chromatic aberration also really scratch my brain. I am sure people can tell my love for those things if they have seen enough of my own art, but yeah, thanks Bat for this lovely art. The other piece I want to show off today is from Sobs over on Blue Sky, and oh my gosh, I love your style. I love how soft the line art looks, I love the fact that there is some screen tone in the space where there's shading, I love how you did the hair highlights, I love when people render blush like that with the vertical lines, and something about the way the hands looks is just like so good. Mwah. This would definitely be a contender for phone screen saver, since it's more vertical too. Thank you so much to Sobs for this lovely art. Links to both of these artists can be found in the description below this video. Please check them out and give them some love. Also, just a quick aside, I've had a few people ask me how to get fan art to me, and the way I have found all of the art that I featured in these is literally people just making a post on a social media I am active on, which is YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky, all of which you can find links for in my YouTube bio, and then just tagging me in the post. It is that easy. You don't need to message me or leave a comment telling me about the art, and frankly, you probably shouldn't because it's harder for me to find them that way, and I don't check or read all of that stuff as regularly anymore. If I haven't seen it, it's probably because I haven't done my weekly scroll of whatever media you posted it on, or maybe you tagged me incorrectly, but either way, I still occasionally will search my name just in case. So yeah, just tag me on one of these three platforms, and I'll see it, and I try to leave a comment if I do see it. Outro time. It's that time again where I say thank you to my wonderful channel members, who you can see on screen now. These guys go above and beyond to support me and my channel, allowing me to invest more time and energy into making cool videos like this one. So the least I can do is give them their little spotlight here. Consider them the sponsors of this video. If you'd also like to have some time in the spotlight, you could always join the team yourself, provided that $1.99 USD isn't going to make or break your monthly budget. Always take care of yourself first. This was a video both very in my comfort zone and very out of my comfort zone. It was character design, it was an exercise I've done many times, but as said, I don't typically do it digitally, nor do I typically render things fully like this. It was definitely a little bit more work than I'm used to doing for just practice, but I also think it was kind of more fun since I generally just imagine the colors when I'm in my sketchbook. Regardless, I really like how these designs turned out, and I'm interested to see what name suggestions you all have for the gals. I'll probably pick my favorites and put them in a pinned comment at some point. Also, I would absolutely love to see you all try this stuff yourself. It is a really fun and simple exercise, and if I've inspired you to do it, either with these fruits or different ones, I'd absolutely love if you tagged me in that art. It's always fun to see what other people come up with off of the same prompt. Also, if this video was fun for you all, I'd love to invite you along again for more of this stuff, so let me know if this was fun. It's a low pressure type of video, and fits really well into my normal art activities, and it is especially nice when I need to buy myself some time and energy for a bigger video. I won't tease the bigger video coming up because I have yet to learn which one is going to be the most done the soonest. It's a surprise for me too. I've definitely completely thrown off my roadmap at this point, so I'll probably head off to fix that now, and maybe we can come back next week for me designing a bunch of hot dudes based off of phallic vegetables. That might be a joke, I'm not sure, it's kind of funny. Anyways, I'll let you go. Until next time, make sure you stay hydrated, spread some positivity in these trying times, and most importantly, remember that you matter. Happy Pride Month. Bye. Slow down, you crazy child. You're so ambitious for a juvenile, but then tell me why you still so afraid. Is Billy Joel gay? I feel like I would have heard about that if he was. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're starting.